Hello, hello. We're back. We're gonna catch up with everyone yelling at each other, accusing each other of lying and double-crossing, I guess. You didn't tell me about the library, blah, blah, blah. You knew Oswin was here. You didn't tell me, like, whatever. Oh, what the? Yeah, okay, that's fine. Orlando put his hand on Haas's shoulder, shaking his head briefly at him before turning to look at Roswell messing with the door out to the side. That door over there, though. What about it? Looks like the door didn't. Looks like the door in the basement. Ah, right. Well, I can assure you that this is just a fairly sturdy door blocking off what I see as my personal part of the house from the rest. As if a hidden passage from the conservatory isn't enough. Forgive me for assuming you'd understand what it's like having a flair for the dramatics. Yeah, there we go. I wandered over from them over to the door, where it seemed as though Tyson and Roswell were checking the door with the What is this word? What? Scrutiny? Scrutiny? Definition.
Scrutiny.
Scrutiny. Okay.
Scrutiny.
Okay. Benson lingered nearby to keep things in order. What exactly are you guys doing? Trying to get the stupid door open. Well, I've been running through a list of things in my head to see if anything works on the keypad. You know, like the one downstairs. But no luck? Well, Master Gray did try kicking the door down in hopes it'd budge. It was worth trying. Sure. But next time, wait until we've tried something a little more intelligent, rather than just assuming kicking down a reinforced door would work over, He gestures at the keypad that seemed to be wired to the door, causing Tyson to huff. Yeah, well, whatever. What's the password to the door, Benson? Roswell and Tyson shot a glance at one another before looking at me, stunned. What? That would have been a good thing to start asking. I felt better kicking the door. Unfortunately, while I know how to open this door particular, I've not been given permission to leisurely hand out the key to it. Oi, what's behind it anyway? Something secret, that's for sure. Maybe his bedroom or something else like that. You're on the right track. It's merely what Master Oswin regards as his part of the house, while the rest he allows me to have free reign over. And he just locks it behind a door like this? What about when he gets hungry? The advantages of having a butler, Master Gray. I have a question. I did a double take as Sal wandered up to the door, gently knocking on it, while Roswell was trying to open it with more guesses on the keypad. By all means. What is it, Master Warden? Is Master Hamden a doctor? Probably. That or some kind of scientist nerd. Hey, nothing wrong with being a nerd. Yes, there is, Roswell. Roswell called out without even looking up from the keypad, drawing my attention for all of a second. The technically correct answer is your question is no, Master Warden. However, as I'd come up eventually, he did at one point hold a medical doctorate and license to practice medicine, yes. What happened? He fuck up someone's medication or something? Before Benson could reply, Oswin was on his way over with the rest of the group in tow. As a matter of fact, yes, I killed 100 kids. It was lit. Enough of that warranted that I no longer work in the hospital or officially in the field anymore. Well, shit, all right. So you were a doctor, okay. Why? It's nothing. At least not something I want to openly discuss right now. In that case, find me sometime later, and we can ask, and you can ask me at your leisure, Mr. Warden. So you've been here since we arrived? You know, a whole bunch of things. You know a whole bunch of things about us, and have been helping Dave feel better about everything that's been going on with the vault? Orlando's eyes were looking around the room, focusing mainly on the ceiling high above, as if searching for something. That's right. And the only reason you and Benson didn't tell us was because it was meant to be a secret? Correct. Which is why Roswell asked Benson about who was in the house. Dave, you knew back then, right? What makes you say that? To be honest, your reaction was a little odd, but I didn't think anything of it. Just one of those things you came out with because stuff on your mind. Oh, well, my fault. After our little chat, I asked him to keep a mention of me to a minimum. At the time, I didn't realize that his nerves were so bad were as bad as they are, but he did a good job. I smiled a little, appreciating the praise. For the briefest of moments, I was thankful that I hadn't given up on Roswell. That I hadn't given him up when Roswell had asked. A part of me wondered what would have happened if I did. I am thinking the same, Dave. It's almost like they're like, play Path B. It'll be cool. You'll play as 9S in that route. And the combat will change significantly. And gamers will hate it. But I was okay with it. Well, what's the plan now? As far as what exactly? We've been here almost 2 weeks, but you're here, so... Does that bother you? You're welcome to stay for the whole month as originally planned. Or at least I see no reason why that should change now, at least. I have no intention of leaving either. Well, sure, but I meant, like, does this mean you'll be around more, or... Oswin's eyes focused on me, looking me over, his brow furrowed briefly, before turning back to Orlando. Perhaps. I'm still deciding, given interacting with this many people at once is something I haven't done in a long time. Are we that bad? I wouldn't say that. Exhausting is more accurate. The nature of an introvert, although I would say that interacting more would be beneficial, sir. He just sighed, shuffling and shaking his head. I'm not about to say he can't join us for dinner, but like, we know next to nothing about him, which, given he knows about us, feels a little unfair. Would it be comforting if I were to give you my life story over dinner then? There isn't a whole lot to tell. Well, something is better than nothing. I felt a hand on my shoulder, easing me away from the group and off to the side. Oh, hey, it's his boyfriend's. Tyson stared at me intently, staying quiet despite being the one that guided me over here. What's wrong? You're not going to say anything? Tyson? I'm getting to it. I blinked, frowning. What do you mean? So, we were all by the river before, and could hear you yelling. Caught us off guard for a moment, before I had to tell them it was just you. What do you mean, just me? Look, I'm no stranger to stranger to the whole making sounds when you're upset thing. I howl, I get it. You howl? Then why? Dean, fuck off. We're not having that talk now. Right, sorry. But he's right, Dave. Some of us wanted to go make sure you were okay, but we didn't really know what was going on. I've heard you wail before. You weren't in danger, just upset. So don't go asking that what if I killed crap again. My mouth was open and ready to deliver that very line, but I eased back embarrassed. Do you feel better at least? No. Well, I'm sorry. Ty reached out for my shoulder, giving it a squeeze. He was usually able to make me feel comfortable, but with his eyes looking off elsewhere, it felt very impersonal. So you've been keeping this a secret for a few days, huh? Keep what a secret? Oswin? Yeah. Any reason beyond him asking? Not really. Well, Roswell asked I thought about telling everyone, but I didn't know. Well, I don't know how many times I can say it, but if you need to talk to someone, I can make myself available. Thanks, I guess. Ty sighed, shaking his head. Can we go eat now? Books suck. I guess so. What are you all doing over here? Wanting to fucking leave. Is Mr. Osmond joining us for dinner? I think so. Benson was talking about doing dinner tonight as a means of apologizing for keeping us in the dark. Well, all right. I'm fine with that, I think. Like we have a choice. Hey, he could be a good guy. I'm willing to give him a chance. As long as nothing bad happens, I think I'm willing to give him a shot. He let us stay here after all. Already I found the conversation moving away from me, and I was torn between feeling sad and feeling glad and just sad that I wasn't the center of attention anymore. We all filed out of the library, the way we came to head to the dinner. I linger at the back of the group, hands in my pocket of my hoodie and letting my feet drag. Sal was acting as a barrier between Roswell and Oswin, while the younger of the two tried to bombard him with questions about the house, other secret passages and such. Haas and Tyson were talking about anime, I think. They were both eager to be doing something after dinner. Dean was talking to Orlando about something in hushed voice near the front of the train, where Benson was occasionally adding his thoughts on the matter. Once again, I found myself outside, not hungry, and just wanting to be asleep again. I was so lost in my own head, I didn't hear the back door open, or the footsteps approaching me, and they came by my side. Okay, are we just on the Oswin route? Is that it? It's a nice night, isn't it? I grunted as he came to stand next to me, looking out to the surrounding forest. I heard you've been out here moping a fair bit recently. Being inside makes me feel trapped, I guess. It's just nice out here. I think I can understand that. I used to stand here. I used to stand right where you're standing when I was young, either to take a break from my siblings or even Benson, my father, mother. Yeah, well, cool, I guess. Oh, come now, Dave. It's not all doom and gloom, is it? Rich coming from you. First you tell me one of my friends is going to die from a hidden microphone in my room, then you inject something into me. What isn't there to be upset about? Oswin nodded his head briefly before shooting me a curious look. Do you regret it? Regret what? Caring about your friends so much. Personally, I'm a little envious. I would assume this is what it's like to have a child of my own. Of course I care about my friends. Any normal person would, right? Would they? The reply came so quick that I wasn't sure how to react. You care for your friends, but you're so Let's go with the word selfless. That it's quite fascinating. What you present is far more than just a form of solidarity between friends, Dave. I wasn't convinced, staring out and keeping my gaze fixed on a spot beyond the trees. My point is, you're fighting the good fight, although I admit I'm fairly biased towards that. What is your stake in this? Why do you care about me doing my best to save who's marked for death? A simple enough question, I suppose. There were a few moments of silence where I assumed that he wasn't going to answer. Instead, it just seemed he was thinking over his answer. As a doctor, you make an oath to do your best to keep people healthy and alive. As a parent, I imagine it's much the same for your children. Understandably, I'm neither of those things, although I would love to be. Perhaps I'm just living vicariously through you. Perhaps I'm desperate to ensure someone else doesn't make the same mistake I did. Getting someone killed? I didn't expect him to chuckle, but he shook his head. Not quite. Wasting one's life away wondering what if, or lamenting on opportunities long gone. I entered and finished university early, spent many years in my field before, well, you know. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. How long have you been here by yourself? Long enough to forget what it's like to be around people as a whole. Months? Years? Almost decades. Granted, I've not been by myself. Benson's been around. Plus the occasional visitor. It's just a very large house for 2 or even 3 people. Rarely there's been double that. He placed a hand carefully on my shoulders, although the weight of it felt heavy. If it was meant to be reassuring, it was more clinical. Or the way a teacher would touch your shoulder in the strange mix of encouraging but distant. Benson's likely going to be finished preparing dinner soon, so I'll be heading back inside. All right, well, have a fun dinner, I suppose. Not hungry? I felt my stomach gurgle. Not hungry, but not a vague queasiness that killed my appetite. My silence must have been enough as an answer. In that case, I wish you good evening, Dave. I'll be up for a while, yet likely answering what questions Roswell has for me, or perhaps Master Warner. You're welcome to join us at any time. Are you going to tell them about the mark thing? Should I? No, probably not. Then when you feel it's time, I'll let you be the one to divulge that information. Until then. Osmond turns around and went back inside, closing the door gently behind him. I sighed, slumping against the railing, and taking one last look around before heading inside myself. Rather than heading down with all of the others, I headed back to my room. Unlike the night before, no one came to check in on me. I spent the evening laying on my bed, writhing due to the feeling just under my fur, a level of uncomfortable that I couldn't quite place the source of. Eventually, I had a shower to freshen up, only to continue lying on my bed. No one checked up on me like the night before, but maybe Oswin had said something. Night settled in, and the house was still. For a brief moment, I heard movement outside my door before it moved on, possibly someone heading off to bed themselves. Another hour later, I could hear Roswell talking with Haas nearby. Not enough to make out what they were saying, but they were going back and forth about something. Apparently, Roswell filling him in on something. But that too felt quiet, and I rolled over in my bed to get under the covers. Cuddled down as best I could, wishing for someone to come save me from myself, wishing that something would just magically make everything better. Let whatever happens, happen. Just give up, Dave. I find myself mouthing the words now, just shy of saying them myself. My head hurt, my heart ached, but despite it all, I was able to get to sleep. Okay, day 13. Fun. I was cold. Not in the way that throwing on more clothes could fix, but Something chilling to my something chilling at my core. When I opened my eyes, it was the crack of dawn, at least based on that light slowly filtering into the window. The cold feeling was still clung to me, almost like a blanket I couldn't just shrug off. I could have thought that Oswin. I would have thought that Oswin would bring out in the open would have made me feel better. One less secret weighing me down that should have been helping. If anything, I felt worse. My throat was dry, my fur tingled, and I got up to have a shower. Not that it did much. The water was hot, and I sighed out, basking in it, but the feeling lasted only a while I was under the water. I wondered if Orlando would hate me for thinking of him right now, or as a friend, not as a friend, but a convenient heater. Maybe all the worse that he made a point of sacrificing his own happiness for mine, leaving me a mess of what to think. Obviously, I cared for Orlando as much as more than just a heater, and more than just a regular friend, too. With a sigh, I resigned to lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling. The cold transitioned into a numbness that covered my entire body, something that felt like I was covered by something matted my fur together. Closing my eyes, I wondered where things stood after last night. But the sudden offset of pain coursing through my head made me yelp, clutching my head. There were so many questions, but not enough answers. Oswin was around, so maybe the focus could be on him instead of me. It'd give me some freedom to think, for people to leave me alone. But was that what I really wanted? Maybe I wanted someone to give me attention, to notice me, to save me. The sound that comes out of my mouth was feeble, tired, an elongated whine that registered as a sound of a wounded animal would make. Sitting up right as I heard a knock at my door, I wondered who it would be at this hour. Come in. Sal slipped quietly into the room and closed the door behind him, keeping his gaze elsewhere. Hey, Sal. Yes, hello. He seemed to go to speak a few times, thinking over his words before settling on what he wanted to say. I wanted to see if you were awake. I thought you might be. Shuffling closer, he stopped halfway between the door and my bed, quickly looking me over. You know I am normally up, I mean. What's wrong, Sal? Me? Oh, right. I wanted to check in on how you were doing, how you were going. You weren't at dinner. You're likely hungry, and then there's that other boar. Oswin? Right. He trailed off there, looking uncertain. There's so many things Inching closer, he just stopped shy of the bed. Orlando came to me last night. For all the panic that was going on, he came to me in tears. The idea made me sit up, frowning. Sal sat down carefully on the bed, rubbing his arms. He's terrified, but he knows when to seek help. He wanted grounding and reassurance things were going to be okay. Okay? Sal sighed, shaking his head. Why haven't you done that? If not me, then Tyson, or Orlando, Haas, or Roswell, anyone. I didn't have an answer, instead just sitting there with my mouth parted, ready to defend myself, but no words came. My concern is that I don't press you to talk about it. My concern is that if I don't press you on to talk about it, you never will. But what if I don't want to talk about it? Flashing him a wry smile, he stared at me, expressionless for a few moments before standing up. Fair enough. Sorry to have bothered you, Dave. He walked forward to the door and quickly left before I had much time to really process what he was doing. Alone once again, I sighed out, shifting so I was comfortable in my bed again. I listened to the sound of the house, the creaking walls, and the sounds of birds outside my window. More time passes, and I could hear the others moving about, tiredly greeting one another. Slipping out of my room, I wandered downstairs, following it in the wake of my friends who seemed to be heading towards the dining room for breakfast. What do you think you're doing? Rubbing my eyes as I took stock of what was happening, I saw Oswin sitting at the table across from Roswell, clenching his coffee much to the same as I would. Nothing. Roswell was helping himself to some cereal, eyes focused on the older boar opposite him. Just eating breakfast. Oswin's eyes bulged as the last crumb of the cereal fall out of the box, signaling that there was nothing left. Good morning. My greeting went ignored as Oswin's jaw was clenched, and he continued staring at Roswell. The others seemed to pay them no mind. Some taking a seat at the table while a couple of the others went into the kitchen. That better not be the last box, Roswell. I would have thought the cereal was for kids based on the slogan on the box. Don't know why you're kicking up such a fuss over it, Mr. Hammond. Why, you little Benson? Oswin hollered, looking around quickly for the butler. A few of us flinched back when he went to Groggy sitting back at the table. Sure enough, Benson emerged with the rest of those missing at the table, and food was brought out along them. Yes, Master Oswin? Did you give Roswell that cereal box? I did not, Master Oswin. Is there a problem? A problem? There won't be so long as there's another box remaining. Then by all means, you're welcome to check while I attend our guests. You're the butler, you check. Ah, but what host would I be if I neglected the needs of our guests? No reply came from Oswin, instead just looking between his butler and Roswell with a scowl. Now, if you were that bothered by the lack of your preferred breakfast, you have 2 legs of your own, sir. You are welcome to check the pantry. A few moments later, he stood suddenly, grunting once before stomping over to the kitchen and throwing the door open to disappear into the adjoining room. Now then. Master Roswell, did you really need to provoke Master Oswin like that? Not really. Good morning, Master Dave. Do you require coffee? He always requires coffee, Benson. You know the drill. Is Oswin going to be all right? That is something I wouldn't worry yourself over. Yeah. Orlando piped up from nearby, keeping his eyes on the food he'd brought. It was like this at dinner, too. Roswell asked him a bunch of questions and figured out what buttons to press really quickly. Hey, after last night, I just have a lot of pent-up curiosity that I figured he'd make for a good person to vent to. By asking him questions nonstop, he looked ready to throttle you. Had Master Roswell not been as slippery as he proved, he might have. You wouldn't really let that happen, would you? Of course not, Master Dave. I may serve Master Oswin as his butler, but I'm not about to let him bring harm to our guests. Or act as a child. Benson continued on, and Roswell started eating his cereal while I grabbed a piece of toast. Oh, going without coffee today. That's unlike you. Oh, right. Pouring myself a mug from the pot on the table, I had a sugar and milk passed to me carefully by Orlando. Thanks. Sure, no problem. Yeah, okay. I caught Sal nudging Dean, who seemed to pick up that he was meant to do something. Oh, right. Orlando, how are you holding up? Good. He knows Orlando. Oh, then could be better. I'll be fine, I think. You sure? Don't need, I don't know, something to help things along? A talk? A distraction? My dick? I sank in the chair. Part of me felt like this was just her show, or to highlight where I was failing. Well, I talked to Sal about stuff last night, but if we've got a plan for something to do later, I'm interested to keep in keeping my mind busy. Well, good. How about we round up people and just, I don't know, maybe can burst out a big game that we can all play? Yeah, I think I'd like that. They continue talking, and Orlando's spirits seem to pick up. Turning my attention to Haas and Tyson, they seem to already be talking about something. I'm telling you, you're not picking one today. If you're lucky. Wait, I'm telling you, you're picking one today. Okay. If you're lucky. What are you two talking about? Nothing important. Nothing important? Geez, you have a long way to go. It's just a whatever you call it. I don't have a favorite show yet, and you're asking me to pick a favorite character from everything you've watched, which is a very important step in the progress, big dog. I don't think you should call him that, Haas. Why not? Ty doesn't. I mean, he. Tyson looked at me funny, somewhat confused. It's fine. What? But you and. I felt confused. He tore into me for bringing it up, but days later, Haas is getting away with the same thing, no problem. It doesn't feel fair. It's not like I'm fucking thrilled over it. I'm just putting up with it, for your sake. But, well, I wore him down, I guess. All about that give and take, right? I went to speak up again, but the words caught in my throat. Anyway, I'm not picking one. Come on, it's not that hard. Even Dave has one. Even if his taste is to be refined. Refined? He says you have shit taste, pup. I mean, but of course Dave has shit taste. I don't. You do, but that's all right. Different strokes and all that. There was something else weighing me down now. The judgment of what I feel appealing, and what I like. Normally we go back and forth, not just Haas and I, but Roswell and Orlando too. But now with everything else, it was just wearing me down. Oh, right, of course. I chuckle, focusing just on my coffee instead. Dave, listen, you want to watch anime with us later? Oh, already taking the initiative? Gonna show him your favorite? Dude, what the hell? I'm not... I'm allowed to invite who I want. Thanks, but no thanks. I flashed him a weak smile as I stood up. Got plans already? Something like that, but maybe I could join you guys later. Ty sighed and leaned back into his chair, rolling his shoulders. Sure, pup, sure. Nodding to him, I stood up from the table and wandered down to the kitchen with my mug in hand. Even having messed dinner, I wasn't all that hungry, but I wanted to excuse to get away from the table. Where is it? Where is the blasted? As I entered, I looked at Benson, who was off to the side, watching as Oswin dug around the pantry. Pay him no mind, Master Dave. This is just Oswin sourcing his own breakfast. He straightened, setting a colorful box on the table, sighing out. That boy is lucky there was another box. Perhaps this is a sign that you should leave the children's cereal for the children, sir. I'm a grown man, and if I want sugar cereal for breakfast, then I'll be damned if I can't make that decision freely. I like this man. It's good. I like it. Yeah. Osmond's fun. But what about your teeth? Or eggs? Eggs? And bacon, he does have a point, sir. Scrambled eggs is something manageable. Chocolate cake. Chocolate cake? You're not having chocolate cake for breakfast. Ah, I'm loving this dynamic. Like, we haven't really gotten time for Oswin to interact with, like, anyone. And I just love how much of a man-child he is. I assume this is how I'm going to be in 10 years, if I'm still alive in 10 years. Why not? Do you really think that's an appropriate meal choice for the first thing in the morning? Why, glad you asked, Benson. I do. Really? Why? I thought cake was for dessert or whatever. Be that as it may, sir, I'm not making you chocolate cake for breakfast. Then sugar cereal. But now we're back to scrambled eggs, right? Did you want eggs, Master Dave? I quickly shook my head, heading over to the coffee machine instead to contemplate if I needed another cup or if I should just go without. Dave, how are you feeling? Fine. You don't sound fine, my boy. I'm fine, really. He's fine. He's fine. How did last night go? Fine. I shot him a look, and he gave me one back, accompanied with a raised brow. Should it have not been? No, I guess going fine is a good thing. Master Roswell entertained Master Oswin with enough questions to keep most of your friends satisfied with his presence here. I turned to Oswin for clarification, and he nodded. Quite a mind in that head of his. His aptitude for being able to find what makes people tick is truly worrying, however. I dare say you missed a show, Master Dave. With a grunt, Oswin started pouring himself some cereal, earning himself an annoyed, if fleeting look from Benson. Oh, yeah, you said Roswell was being slippery, and Oswin would have throttled him if he caught him right. He's faster than I gave him credit for. It's a wonder that bastard child is as fast as he is, given how pudgy he is in the middle. That's not very nice. Just stating fact. If it makes you feel better, consider it my jealousy, showing in that I wish I had less weight to slow me down. And I see you're going to great lengths to remedy that by eating your second bowl of cereal. Grumbling, Oswin crunched what mouthful he had, before definitely shoveling another spoonful of cereal into his mouth. Now, my boy, are you sure you didn't want anything for breakfast? Another cup of coffee, perhaps? Still standing by the coffee machine, I gave it a once-over before shaking my head again. No thanks, I'll be alright. Wandering out of the kitchen into the foyer, I think I'm gonna end the part here today. Yeah, we finished breakfast. That's good. We'll continue this another day, hopefully. I don't know. See you around, everyone.